HarperCollins presents The Seabirds' Cry, The Lives and Loves of Puffins, Gannets, and Other Ocean Voyagers, by Adam Nicolson. Read by Dugald Bruce-Lockhart. Introduction. One day, on a steeply sloping grass shelf on the Shantiles and the Hebrides, 200 or 300 feet above the surface of the Minch, the wide sleeve of sea between the mainland of Scotland and the Outer Isles, I was sitting with Emily Scragg, a young ornithologist who was spending her summer tracking guillemots and razorbills on their fishing trips out from the islands. The sea below us was alight with mid-morning, mid-summer sunshine, as if polished by it, and we were in shirt sleeves, watching the guillemots on the cliff, dark, handsome birds, gathered and jostling there in their thousands. Emily had been putting a GPS tag on one of them, meticulously taped to the feathers on its back, hoping to track it as it foraged in the sea lochs of Lewis and Harris. She had done her work, and the bird was back on the rock shelf from which she had picked it 10 minutes before. She now had to wait 24 hours, and the guillemot's data would return. As we sat there, watching the big roughened crozier arms of the tide swirling a mile or more out from the headlands below us, a black-backed gull arrived, cruising, easy, sliding low and slow over the guillemot colony, looking for what it might find. And as its shadow crossed them, the guillemots in a sudden scare flight broke away from the cliff, hundreds of them in one dropping, momentous movement, sheering away and down towards the sea. From above, it looked like the rippling of a single wing, a feathered eruption, a dark and magnificent beating of life itself. "Why do you love birds?" I asked Emily. "Because they fly," she said. "That act of release is what is marvellous about them, not as a single done thing, but as something that happens again and again, every year, every day, every new life. The Atlantic seabirds come to breed in places of unremitting hardness. Much of the coastline is a sort of quarry, brutal and intractable, but above it the birds float like beings from the other world. They are gravity-free creatures in a place where gravity seems to rule. That, essentially, is what this book is about. Its governing thought is a pair of phrases I read years ago, quoted by Seamus Heaney in one of his lectures as Professor of Poetry at Oxford. They had been written by the French philosopher and mystic Simone Weil in her collection of aphorisms on grace and transcendence, published after she had died. Weil was exploring the idea that possibility and openness were necessary parts of what was good, the generosity of risk, when she wrote these mind-changing words: "Obéissance à la pesanteur, le plus grand péché. Obedience to gravity, the greatest sin." Seabirds never commit it, and intuitively, pre-scientifically, we see something oceanic in them, the hint and intimation of another scale of existence, not as part of another spiritual world, but as the most miraculous and in some ways troubling quality of the one we inhabit. The poets have always understood this. "I'll be the bonxie," Hugh McDermott wrote of the great skua, "that noble skua that infects other birds with its qualms." As if one only had to look at a skua to feel the subtlety and edginess of the life it leads. Seabirds somehow cross the boundary between the matter-of-fact and the imagined. Theirs is the realm both of enlargement and of uncertainty, in which the nature of things is unreliable and in doubt. After both his parents had died within 2 years of each other, in the mid-1980s, Seamus Heaney for a while left behind the poetry of rich and tangible substance, and from the earth earthy, as Helen Vendler, the Harvard critic, had called it, quoting St. Paul's description of the nature of the first Adam, turned towards a poetry of half-presences and near-absences. Right at the centre of his 1991 collection, which he called Seeing Things, are some set questions for the ghost of W.B., his challenge to Yeats's austere presence over his shoulder. What came first, the seabird's cry or the soul imagined in the dawn cold when it cried? How habitable is perfected form, and how inhabited the windy light? There are no answers, only questions and suggestions. But in that Platonic vision, Heaney's imagined soul seabird is not only the great boundary crosser, but linked to the emergence and genesis of things. The sea
Sample complete. Ready to continue?